All right, so welcome everyone. Today is I'm about three sessions into these training sessions that I'm running, and I'll tell you a bit about where this one fits into my whole um, broader business model. Um, but firstly, I'd just like to welcome everyone, and I know everyone's busy, so really appreciate you taking the time out. I know in the States it's late in the day. So I'm just going to mute, just admitting a few more people. Um, and just making sure that everyone's muted, which they are. So welcome everyone. If you haven't, if you just joined us, then just open up your chat window and let us know where you're located today and what the weather's like. We've just started. I'm just introducing myself. Just thanking everyone for attending today. I know everyone's busy. I know it's late in the day in the States and early in the morning here in Australia. So this is a very quick overview of what I want to cover today. So as I mentioned, today's session is all about how to run a business review and planning session with your clients. I call this part of my model the mapping part of the model. It's really mapping out your client's business, understanding what makes it tick, what's working, what's not, and so on, and then eventually mapping out a plan for them. So I'll explain where this fits into the broader business model that I use. As part of that process, I will share with you the Strategic Insights Questionnaire that I use, how to think about and what sort of analysis to do on a historical basis, and then also looking forwards for your client's business, understanding where they want to take the business and do some forecasting and so on. I'll share with you the one-page planning tool that I use, and then how we use that to keep our clients accountable and on track as we work with them ongoing. So it'll make more sense once I share with you my model. Good to see Sam from Brisbane, Darren from Melbourne. Welcome. All right, so just a little bit of background on me. I think a few people here may have attended some of my training sessions in the past. So I am an accountant by training. So I spent 15 years in various accounting roles, both in public practice, in chartered accounting, and also in commerce, both here and in the UK. But for the last 20 plus years, I've been running my own business coaching and advisory business. So I left corporate and started this. Initially, I joined a group. I actually bought a franchise to be part of that group, and I learned a lot through that process. But it's really been my own independent business that whole time. So in that time, I've helped hundreds of businesses, working directly with the owners, generally small businesses with between, say, 3 to 30 staff. I've got a few clients that have got close to 70 or 80 staff, but generally it's that smaller type of business. And I've always been a bit frustrated, I suppose, because I could see that accountants, all of these businesses obviously have accountants, but I could see that their accountants weren't really helping them in any proactive way. It was really focused on tax compliance. And probably a lot of you are in that space, and I know how busy everyone is. So what I did last year was I launched Accountant to Advisor, and it's really a program just designed for accountants and bookkeepers who want to develop their advisory skills, develop their confidence around advisory, and then roll out advisory services to their clients. Okay, because I can only help a certain number of clients when I work with them directly. And I thought, well, let's help accountants step up and help more of their clients. And that way, I'll have that bigger impact. So really that's what this is about. Now, this is purely a training session, but there is a special offer at the end for anyone who is interested in finding out more about the program. But obviously, this is something for you to be able to take away some ideas and some frameworks for you to be able to roll out advisory in your businesses. And I will ask you where you are in a minute in terms of your stage of offering advisory, but I'll just give you a bit of an overview of my model first. All right, so this is my 4-box model, and it starts with this one here. So I'll just get my pen working. So number one is mindset and model. Now, I've already done a couple of training sessions on this, and the training sessions that I'm running, here for free are really a cut down version of the full training that I have for my members in my program. But the first step is really just getting the foundations in place. It's really giving people the confidence to develop their skills around advisory and some techniques to do that. But then I've also run a session on how to map out your advisory service portfolio. So what sort of services to offer, how to price it. Now, if you want to have a look at those previous recordings, they are available on my YouTube channel. So that's the foundational area. It's mindset, portfolio, how to have these conversations, how to start conversations with your clients. And so that's really the sales process. But then also how to set up your team to be able to take on more of that load to free you up to be able to offer these high level services. Okay, so that's the sort of training and education that I provide in that mindset and model area. Today is all about mapping, which covers. So I'm going to cover these three areas today. And when I talk about this service portfolio area, I really break it down into two types of key services. One is just a one-off business review and planning session, and that could be, a quicker session, or it could be a more in-depth session, depending on the type of business that you're working with, and obviously what sort of fees they want to pay for that sort of service. And I distinctly separate that from the ongoing retainer-based services that most people may think about in terms of advisory. And the reason why I focus on this so much and what we're covering today is it really lays the foundations. If you do a really good job of understanding your clients, this one-off session, understanding what's happening in their business, helping them understand where they want to go, helping them put a plan in place. Then when you move into this, which is the third area called momentum, which is where there's the ongoing meetings. When you move into that area, it just becomes so much easier. All right. Now I've been doing this for over 20 years. And as long as I have put the effort into this area here, then ongoing coaching, ongoing advisory meetings become simple. Okay. And then every 3 months, I go through a process with my clients, and I still work with a lot of SME clients. So I go through a process every 3 months to review their one-page plan, review their long-term goals, and put a new plan in place for the next 3 months. And I'll explain to you, and I'll share with you some of my templates on how I do that. Okay. Now, if anyone has any questions as we go, just pop up. There we go. Eric's shared the link to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much, Eric. Roy, sorry I missed that question, but it's good to have Eric here. So yes, if anyone's got any questions as you go, then just pop it into the chat, and I'll monitor that as we go along. All right. So firstly, let's just find out where each of you are in your businesses, and these are the 4 stages that I look at in terms of advisory. So over here, you're solely compliance focused. All right. You're not really offering any advisory, even on a ad hoc basis. That's where number 2 comes in. We have ad hoc advisory. Okay. So this is where it's probably not structured. There's no real packages. You offer it as part of your normal accounting services. 3 is where you have regular advisory meetings, but they're unstructured. Okay, so you may be meeting monthly or quarterly with clients, and it's mainly to talk about the financials, but there's no real, proper structure around that. And what tends to happen is that, clients fall away. And I've had people come through my program where they're already offering advisory services, they're already having these regular meetings, and they're charging for it. There you go. Shannon's already jumped in, and Roy. I haven't even got to number 4 yet. And so what tends to happen is they find that they run out of things to say, like run out of things to really discuss with clients because it's all mainly financially focused. And we know that how important the numbers are to a business, but a lot of business owners don't have that same appreciation. And number 4 is where we have, systemized and valued advisory services. And this obviously leads to profitable growth, both for yourself in your business and also for your clients. Okay, so I'm very focused on making sure that we're doing the right thing for our clients. I'm an accountant by training. I'm not a salesperson. I don't have that sort of that background or that mentality. But I know that if I can see a client, a business where they are now and where they want to go, and I can see there's a path there and I can help them with that, then selling becomes easy. Okay, and offering these sorts of services becomes easy. Okay, so as a few people have already responded in the chat, if you can just let me know where you feel you are, 1, 2, 3, or 4, or somewhere in between, 1 to 2, 1.5, as Shannon has said. I'd love to see that. Okay, I'm just going to do a bit of a roll call here, so I know who's attended. And we'll keep going. All right, so we have 1.5, 1, 2, 1, 3s. Yeah, so what I find is most people are around that, between 1 and 3. Eric said had 3 for a while, but back to 2. Okay. 2s, 3s. All right. So Life CEO says 1 setup stage, full new business outside of my day-to-day accounting job. Okay, excellent. So Carol's a 3 to 4. Excellent. Karen's a 4. Excellent. All right, good. So no, it's great to see some 3s and 4s in there as well, because it's generally I find there's mainly the 1s and 2s or 2 to 3s. So it's good. All right, it's good to hear where people are and where I can position this discussion as well. So for those that are 4s in particular, hopefully you'll see, you'll get either you'll get confirmation about how how to look at how to review a business, but I'd love to get any additional things that you do, so I can maybe develop that with my members as well. But we'll come back to that later on. And can I ask, for those that do offer advisory, maybe in that 3 to 4 area, whether you actually do spend enough time, or do you feel you spend enough time doing the analysis up front and helping them with goal setting and planning, or whether those regular advisory meetings, which may be systemized and well structured, whether they're mainly focused on those ongoing meetings, and maybe you could do more on that front end in terms of analysis. You probably have a better idea of how to respond to that after I've been through this workshop. All right, we better keep going, but feel free to add any other additional comments in there. Yes, Darren says definitely not enough time front end. Okay. All right, so as I've already alluded to, the whole reason to do the in-depth analysis at the start is to build those strong foundations. The other reason is because what I find is when you start introducing advisory, a lot of your clients see you as an accountant, and they may not see you as an advisor. So them jumping into regular retainer-based meetings and stepping up to committing to those retainer payments can be a big step for them. They may not see the value, they may not see you in that light. So doing a one-off session really helps to unlock that. It really helps them to understand the additional value that you could add, and it's a lot easier for them to commit to. When I go through the pricing and portfolio training, there are 3. I've got a template, and I share all these templates with my clients. There are 3 different levels of these services. Actually, I'll pull it up quickly. I'll go to so this is my portal that I use with all of my clients or my members. And this is all the training. So within this area, mindset and model, which includes this advisory service portfolio, I have so there's obviously training here. All of the training's recorded and available. But then there are all these tools and templates that I share with my members. Actually, this may not load. I had a problem with, if it's a Word document, it's not loading. You can still download it, but it won't load in preview. So let me just open that up for you, just so I know you get a bit more of an idea of how to present these sorts of one-off reviews. Okay. Just opening up. All right, so this is a Word document template that I share with my members. So these are the one-off reviews that we're talking about, and this is part of that, service portfolio training, what to offer, what do clients need, and how to bridge that gap. And so these are the three different types of levels of one-off reviews, and it could be between $1,000 to $3,000, for example. Now, obviously, everyone has to price it based on their own, what they feel their hourly rate's worth, and so on. But you can understand that businesses can commit to this as a one-off investment. $1,000 or $2,000. They're probably this is probably the main one that most of my members would roll out, and so it's a lot easier for them to commit to that one-off payment and investment rather than ongoing retainer-based payments if they aren't quite sure what sort of value they're going to get. All right, so back to the presentation. And the other reason to offer these one-off reviews is that you can actually offer it to people who aren't your clients. They may have an accountant already. They know that their accountant's probably not giving them the proactive advice they're looking for. They haven't really decided to change accountants, but you might come across them in a networking event, or they might get referred to you, and you become known as someone who does these sorts of reviews and in-depth reviews and help people with planning and goal setting and understanding, what levers to pull in their business. And so you can offer these to those non-clients that eventually will then become accounting clients because, they've seen what you can do. All right, better move on, but let me know if you've got any questions. All right, so I'll just share with you firstly the Strategic Insights Questionnaire. Now, I'm not, because this is free training, and I obviously have to protect my IP mainly for my members' benefits because they're obviously paying to get access to all of this. I'm not going to give you the tools, but I will show you the tools on screen. And so what I send out first is, once again, I'll bring it up. Where are we? All right, actually, I think this one, so once again, this is in my portal in here under the mapping area, which is the training that we're going through now. So there's obviously training, more in-depth training. You can see it goes for an hour 20. And once again, it's a Word document, so it won't fully show up, but I'll just show it to you here. So this questionnaire is something that you send out to your clients before the workshop, and they complete it. It gives them a chance to think about their business, reflect on their business, better understand what's happening in their business. But then obviously it gives you that information prior to the workshop. Okay, so things like, where they see themselves longer term, both personally and business wise. I'll share about business in a minute. So where they see themselves longer term, what their goals are for the next 3 to 5 years, next 12 months, SWOT analysis, which is fairly standard. Also an assessment of themselves, strengths and areas for improvement. Because as you know, a business really flows from the top. So really helping your clients to develop their own skills and education around business is a massive area that I focus on with my clients, but also with my members, with their clients. And I always tell them that an educated client is an easy client. Okay, so it is about helping them develop their skills. And then just a few other things, about the market, customers, competitors, a bit of who does what in the business, and yeah. So that's a questionnaire that gets sent out, and then they complete that. You get it back, and then you go into the workshop and run the analysis and so on. But I use that questionnaire as really a framework for discussion in the workshop. And I normally will kick off the business review workshop by just going through the questionnaire and asking them, just delving into that, asking them about the business. And it's a really fantastic tool to provide that discussion. So these are the key purposes, as I've already highlighted. Understand the client, personal goals, individual strengths, areas for improvement, understand the business, the team structure, the competitive environment, highlight areas for improvement and opportunities for growth, mainly through that SWOT analysis. It gets clients clear on what the immediate issues might be and gives them confidence you have a process to follow as well. Okay. So that's the first step, which is the Strategic Insights Questionnaire. Then obviously a big part of what we do in these reviews is looking at the numbers. And that's why, I'm working with accountants and bookkeepers because I've come from that background. I have that same sort of mindset, I lacked confidence initially talking about things other than financials. So it's developing. I understand how we all need to develop those skills and get more confident around business. But at the same time, I've realized that it's actually not difficult because the financials are the core part of business. I always tell people as well that the numbers are the language of business, and you already know so much that most business operators don't know, and not just around the numbers, but you all have team to manage. You run your own business, so you obviously already know a lot about business. So don't feel that you can't talk about business more broadly. So the historical financial analysis. Now, I won't. This is pretty standard for most of us, but things like obviously looking at the full year P&L for the last 3 years, the current year-to-date P&L with comparatives, balance sheet as of June, plus us the previous year, just to understand what's moved in that asset liabilities area. Looking at age debtors, age creditors, and any other KPIs that they may use. All right. So most of us here would be pretty confident looking at financials. So they're the reports, but these are the things that I actually look at in the reports. Okay. Now I will be sharing all of these slides with you afterwards, but if you do want to take screenshots, go ahead, feel free. But you'll get all of these. And Roy's asked the recording. Yes, the recording is going to be available as well, Roy. Okay, yeah, that's fine, Roy. So these are the things that I look at, gross profit as a percentage of revenue, both current and previous years, obviously looking at those trends. Same with cost of sales items as a percentage of revenues. So that's basically individual cost of sales items. Major expenses as a percentage of revenue. I also reallocate expenses to cost of sales if required. For example, I don't want to go through that in too much detail, but quite often when I look at a business's P&L for the first time, and even though they've got bookkeepers and accountants, cost of sales items like variable costs are mixed up in general expenses or overhead expenses. So for me, really understanding gross profit margins is critical, and understanding the relationship between fixed and variable costs. Looking at trends across all of those years, making sure the balance sheet reconciles to the P&L. You'd be surprised how often. It doesn't happen that often, I must say, but it has happened. Understanding the main balance sheet items and movements, and obviously the aging of debtors and creditors. Okay, so there are a few of the things that I look at on a historical basis. Then and the questions to ask. So if there are some major movements in GP margin, has there been a change in mix of customers or type of work? Has pricing pressure caused a slip in margins because of industry conditions? We know the economy is not great at the moment. Well, depends on what part of the economy you're in, and this is a global phenomenon. Increase in supply prices or wages not being passed on to price increases, and changes in staff or factory productivity, including errors that are affecting GP margin. And then the other questions I've said there, generally comes from big changes in dollar amounts or percentages, in terms of expenses as a percentage of revenue. Okay, so just a few tips there. All right, then I look at future-focused analysis, and these are the types of things I would look at. I do spend time understanding. Now, once you understand those relationships historically, then you can obviously do this sort of analysis going forwards. Understanding what their break even is, but also the revenue targets that they need to hit to meet certain profit targets. And I'll share with you some of my tools that I use in a minute. Scenario modeling. So I've got some very simple spreadsheets I use to help do some what-if analysis. And when you see them, you'll see that they are very, very simple. I try to keep everything simple for my own benefit, but also for my clients' benefits. Looking at 12-month profit or cash flow forecasting. Also, a lot of my clients are project-based, so it could be trades businesses with projects. And so it is important to understand not just how much they have in their pipeline, but when they're going to get those projects completed, because it may look like they have a lot in their pipeline, but they really need to be able to complete enough every month to obviously be able to invoice and then and cover costs and so on. So doing that sort of forecasting. Just go back, and I'll just pull up some of those that I have. So where's my break even? This is an example, and these are all tools and examples that I share as part of. So this is a very simple break-even tool I use. And I always, you can see down here, it's based on 11 billable months per year. Sometimes I make it 10.5 months, because obviously there's always going to be periods of the year where people, over Christmas and other times where you lose productivity. This one here is an example of my project forecasting tool. So actually specify which, what the jobs are. This is regular income, project income, cost of sales in general, any subby costs, and so on. So this is really a forecasting tool for a project-based business. And there was a scenario one that I'll share with you. Where are we? This is another simple one that I use with trades businesses, or any business really, where you put in here the staff and the productive or billable staff. This could be for an accounting firm as well, and any cost of sales, labor costs, overheads, just in general. You can see it's very simple, but it allows you then to tweak these things. So this was an example of a client that ran an air conditioning business. We looked at, okay, if we increase his rates from where it was, 90 odd, to 110, obviously what the impact is. Then we did different scenarios, whether he should get an admin person to relieve him of work, or whether he should hire another tradesperson. So these are the simple tools that I use with my clients, mainly to help me understand their business and where the levers might be and what the impact might be. If I understand it, I can obviously explain it to them, and then we can decide on what the best course of action is. Okay. Anyway, better keep going. Just a couple of questions here. So Eric's saying, do you advocate for specific forecasting online software? I don't, Eric. I never have. I've really just done it all myself. So I'll just open up my Yeah, a simple 12-month forecasting tool I use. So I just use spreadsheets, Eric. Now, uh, and it's probably because I've been doing it for so long, and it's only been more recently where some of these cash flow tools have become more reliable. But I just really use spreadsheets. Now, my members are using Sift. They're doing analysis through that. Sift, for those that may not use Zero, is a Zero add-on. Um, but there are obviously a lot of other tools. Klaxa is another one that clients use, or members use. So there's a whole range of them, and it is something we've discussed in our group meetings to work out which ones may be best for which people. So another question: do you do the project forecasting and what ifs with the client, or prepare them and then present them to the client? Yeah, good question. So if I just go back to that one. So what I tend to do is I will help set it up, and I obviously don't know this information here. Okay. So this is something I do together with the client. So once I understand the financials, I will build this, and you can see it's not complicated. It's a standard template. The variables are really these percentages here. For example, these sorts of costs are generally fixed. I don't try to, unless there's some major movements in expenses month to month. The only major one is wages. So this one here is actually, no, you can see, this one's fixed. But what I generally would do is then work out how many pay weeks there are each month. And then, if it's 5-week month versus a 4-week month, that can have a big impact on, wages every month. But other than that, I more or less keep it fixed, because there's so much other variability up here that really flows to the bottom line. Worrying too much about the accuracy of this here isn't very material. So I'll generally set this up and then sit down with them to work out, like, to help them with, well, for them to help me fill out what jobs are coming up. And then I'll put enough months in there that they can then update this themselves. Okay, so I generally will set up a Google Sheet because it's easy to share and keep live. And I have enough rows and enough columns in there so they can just keep adding to it. And they just populate this part and also the subbies part, because the subbies can be, will vary by job. And then we review it when we get together. Okay. Or I might even review it, before that. I'll just check that it looks okay and go backwards and forwards a little bit. But I really leave it for them. It's as much as I can educate them on how to do this, or educate someone in their office to do it. It relieves the stress and the work on us, and it introduces skills to them and their business. Okay. All right, better move on. Otherwise we'll run out of time. So where are we? Over here. Okay, so that's a sort of forecasting. And then we look at the bigger picture as well. So this is all in the one session. Now, you could break this up into a couple of sessions, and that's what my members have found. Some of them actually will have a phone call after they get back the questionnaire and go through the questionnaire with them, with the client. And then the actual face-to-face workshop or Zoom workshop will be freed up just to do the analysis and goal setting and planning. And a lot of the analysis you would already do beforehand. So back to, I suppose, the PG&A accountant's question. Some of these tools, so for example, most of these forecasts, I will prepare after the workshop. So the workshop is really for me to understand the business, look at the historicals, understand the historicals, and we might the scenario one, which is pretty simple, I'll probably do with them then and there, but I might go back and actually do some of that forecasting and prepare some of that after the workshop. Okay, once I have a better understanding of the financials. Now, in my business and what I don't do the accounting work for my clients. So when I come across a new client, it's all fresh to me. Okay, so I need to spend that extra time. For most of you, if it's an existing client, you'll already have a good understanding of the client's business. And so you'll be able to do some of this forecasting and modeling, maybe prior to the workshop. Okay, so everyone's a little bit different, but you get an understanding of of how I look at all of these areas, and and I can't do it all in the one workshop. I may do some things afterwards and then catch up in a second session to review things with them. Okay, and that's the same for this one-page plan. So most accountants, bookkeepers, even if they do advisory, you probably don't have a structured goal setting and planning process with clients. So this is a very simple model. It starts with your dreams, flows down to your goals, and this is relevant to all of you as well, not just your clients. From goals, we flow down to a plan, and then we have, we take action on that. So it all starts with this top line, which is all about our dreams. So I really encourage all of my clients to unlock themselves from the challenges they face right now and let them dream a little bit. Ideally, where would you like to see the business in 5 years? Your life in 5 years, 10 years. Okay, so the bigger the dream, and the more we allow them to dream, the bigger the goals they'll set. We'll have a totally different plan and start taking totally different actions. All right. Now, this is just my model. It doesn't mean that all of my members that do planning with their clients will follow this process. But the more you do it yourself, and this is with anything in business and anything with advisory with your clients, the more you do these sorts of things yourself in your own business, the far easier it becomes to then share it with your clients. Okay. All right. So then we put together this one-page plan. Now I've got a template here, which is a still template, but if I go back to my my portal here, so I've obviously got a training session just on goal setting and planning and setting KPIs, and I have this one-page plan online sheet that all of my members have access to. And it's exactly the same as the one I shared, in the presentation. And this is a very simple one-page plan. You've obviously done all of the analysis and all of the, the discussion beforehand. And then this is a way to then bring it all together into a simple plan. Now, this top left-hand corner, I don't really spend a lot of time with clients initially on this. It's sort of just sowing the seed for them, because these sorts of concepts can take quite a bit of time for clients to think about, even to get their head around what it all means, let alone actually filling it out. So I don't focus too much on that. I'll focus mainly on this, 3-year goals, 12-month goals. What are your revenue goals, profit goals? What are the simple things you want to achieve over the next 3 years? And when I share with you, I've got another training session coming up on my business building model. That will then allow you and your clients to better understand, what are the things I need to look at? What are the things I need to think about to improve in my business? Okay, so this helps fill out these goals over the next 3 years. And then obviously from there, what are the goals for the next 12 months? So it's flowing those back. And then the most important part of this plan is, what are the goals for the next 90 days? Who's responsible? And what are the steps that you need to take to achieve that goal over the next 3 months? Okay. So that's my one-page planning tool. Just questions there. Karen's saying yes. This is based on. It's not just EOS actually, Karen. It's a bit of Vern Harnish, a bit of what I originally did with the franchise that I started with, but I did incorporate a few things from the EOS model. I can't remember which bits now, but it's not. Yeah, it's definitely not just the EOS. I think VTO's vision something form. There's a few other things in here. So it's basically, this is something I've used for, since the start. It's very similar to the one-page planning tool that I learned from a group called Action Coach originally. And it's amazing how, I'm sure EOS has learned it from someone else, and there's a whole mixture of general concepts. Some are more detailed and complicated than others. I've taken what works for my clients for those sorts of businesses I mentioned, and sort of created this as the template that I've always used with with my clients. All right, so we better keep going. All right, so next steps for all of you. So first of all, identify possible review opportunities within your current client base. There's definitely going to be plenty there. And we know it's not just the business that has potential, but the business owner needs to recognize that. So, and I know that can be a challenge or an obstacle. Conduct historical analysis on a couple of key clients. They don't have to be ones that want to pay for it. You might just want to do it as part of, just a practice. And then also consider what those results should look like in 12 to 24 months, and maybe do some projections on those clients just for your own practice, and create your own one-page plan. All right. So the more you do that yourself, then it becomes a lot easier to roll that out for your clients. All right. Now, just a very quick to wrap up. I'm obviously doing this to create awareness of what I do, and also to offer people to join the program if they want. I actually do have a special invitation. I really don't want to follow people up after this, so I'm putting a special offer out there instead. And for those that are interested, I'll share it with you now. I didn't actually have it ready, but let me just pop it into the chat. Grab that and pop it in here. All right, so if you click on that, you can click on it now if you like. I will resend it, but you can click on it now and it'll actually share with you the details of the program. You can look at it later after we finish up. It's normally $150. I'll just go to the next page. It's normally $150 a week, but what I'm doing is for those, just to offer it to those that are here today. If anyone's interested, have a look through that the program information. It's $100 a week, and it's locked in. Like, you won't be subject to price increases, but you need to commit by Monday. So I've given you a few days and over the weekend to have a look, and I only take on 3 people every time I run these sessions. I really can only take on 1 per week. I want to make sure I have the one-on-one session with each person to understand your business, where you want to take it, and so on. But you can see here, it's a group program. We have an initial one-on-one session as part of it. It's all included. There's a skills development plan, training plan for you. You get access to all of my tools and templates. We have a weekly live meeting, which is Wednesday morning, Australia, New Zealand time, and which is Tuesday afternoon, US time. Have a look and let me know if you're interested or have any questions. All right, so that's all from me. Eric's saying someone could work with you. Definitely, this costs true. Yes, you can. There's no lock-in contract, and so the whole idea of my program is obviously to educate people and help you implement these frameworks into your business. But even after you have done that, it's bringing the whole program is designed where you can actually bring specific client questions or challenges or issues, and we can discuss those. So it's really giving you not just the tools to implement, but also to support you as you roll this out, and to educate yourself. All right, so happy to stay on if anyone's got any questions. But no, thanks everyone for attending. I really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you've got, if you're in the US, probably dinner and family things to get on with. But really appreciate you coming along. So I'm just going to stop my share, and I'll also stop the recording, but happy to stay on and answer any questions that anyone else has.